Welcome back from the MKBuzz, right from the Amsterdam Novotel, where we've just had a 7-hour masterclass of Verne Harnish. Ben Kerkhof on the other side was there as well. Ben, you're the founder and CEO of the Compare Group. And Verne, we've had you introduced before, the author of The Rockefeller Habits, and your new book is called
The Greatest Business Decisions of All Time.
The Greatest Business Decisions of All Times. We're going back to the basic ingredients of the whole Rockefeller habit ingredients, and basically we've talked about the numbers you need for growing your company, but on the other side, you as a person, the entrepreneur or the founder of the organization, has to grow as well.
Yes.
What is the main challenge that you face as an entrepreneur?
Mainly, it's how to let go. You know how to do things. It's your baby. It's your vision. You can make it. You can sell it. But it's hard to scale when it's just you. And so you've got to make that. And it really is a leap of faith to say I can attract some other people to my vision and get them to kind of do things as well or even better than I can in order to move the business forward. So I have an MBA and never took a course on delegation, but it's probably the most important skill that entrepreneurs need. Letting go.
Ben, is it something you recognize? Letting go?
It's very hard. It's still hard for me. I mean, when I started, there was a 4th employee. Now we have 60. I went through all the crises, and they all hurted like hell. At the same time, those were also the moments I learned a lot in those uncomfortable days.
Tell me something more about your background. I mean, you've learned a lot in all those phases.
Yeah.
When did you start as an entrepreneur?
It was back in 2000 when I started. Friends of mine established Vergelijk.nl with Compare in Holland. I was living in Finland, working for the KPN in Finland there. And they asked me, can you do it in Finland? I said, sure thing. So I did it in the beginning next to my job. In 2003, like mostly the founders, is not mostly likely to be very successful in running a company. He asked me to run a company, and I did. And that's when it all started. So we started with 4 the same year. We had 17, and we grew from there. That sounds wonderful, but it was hard. It was so hard. Yes. And so much pain you have. But that's also the most wonderful thing. I think if you want to succeed, you have to want to learn. And that's it. And if you're not uncomfortable enough, you're not learning fast enough.
Yeah. It's when I saw at this MIT program I ran. Guys would tell me, and I've moved a lot of the Dutch entrepreneurs through it, could you tell in class who was going to build the big companies? And I could. I'd learned the pattern was they were the hungriest to learn. They were taking the notes. They were asking the questions. They were up talking to the speakers afterwards. They'd hire them to come out to their companies. This thirst for learning is critical.
And the thirst for learning is something that you have to nurture, because you talked about the Think Week. Bill Gates had the Think Week. Spend time reading books, spend time being inspired, and spend time learning. I mean, if we've done a research to look for the answer. How much do you spend on yourself? Do you invest in yourself as an entrepreneur?
And most don't, which is why most don't get beyond themselves an assistant working out of a spare bedroom. But those that are willing to get it up to the next level are voracious learners. I love Facebook. Yep. Mark Zuckerberg. One of the things Mark's done is every year set a personal challenge for himself. One year was to learn Mandarin. This year his focus is to go meet somebody. He knows he has issues with really building personal relationships and listening. And so he said, I'm going to meet one non-kind of Facebook involved person every day, and that's been his focus this year.
Quite a hard find, I think.
It is. And so he's a guy that has set personal challenges for himself. Last year it was, I'm not going to eat any meat that I didn't kill myself. But it's all about personal growth.
What are your challenges, Ben?
Always in the challenge, especially when you start small, and next in the 6 years still small, you have a lot of have-to-do things, so hands-on work. Yeah. The trick is to reserve time or make time that you can think about a company, work on the company. I have the luck that I live 1.5 hours away from my work. Stop doing the car, now in the train, and that's the time I can spend time in reading books. I read 2 books a month, and that's inspirational. Sometimes I read it and I start dreaming about how we can do it, and that's how you can go forward and think outside the company instead of inside the company just working.
Yeah,
that helps me a lot.
It's one of my favorite quotes. Those who don't read barely have an advantage over those who can't. So think about it.
And if you read, I mean, I recognize Willem has read another book, and I'm trying to implement that on the company.
Oh yeah.
I recognize it as well.
Yeah.
How do you do that? I mean, if you read something, you get inspired as a CEO or as a founder, and then you have to implement it. Is that when the Rockefeller habits come into place?
The Rockefeller habits we use really as a framework. It's really good, and we tried it the first time after I saw you was 2.5 years ago. Also in Holland, we used it straight away. We did I think 2 or 3 times. We did it ourselves. Then the third time for the year, we asked Peter to help us for 2 days, and we start getting better in it. And once you're better, you start wanting other questions, and you search on the sites, you ask information, you ask consultancy, you read books that make sense. So it's like the framework, but it has so many layers in it. I thought I had things covered, but I didn't. And like responsibility, I mean, I thought we had it covered, and I thought I had the mission clear to everybody. I forgot to do sit dog, and I hopefully next year, they actually will sit. I mean, it takes that much time. It's repetition and so many other things. I thought I had it covered, but it isn't.
You don't.
No.
Maybe we should explain the sit dog thing.
Well, it's this notion that if you have children, you got to get on message, say it over and over and over and over and over until they finally get it. And so it's about David Marquette wrote a book called Turn the Ship Around, and right on it's a great execution book, and on the back of his door running the submarine, he just had this reminder that you just got to repeat yourself a lot. So it shows this guy facing a dog, and he says, sit, 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 sit. Finally, the dog sits, and that's what it takes.
Good dog.
Good dog. Good dog. Good company.
If you look at the growth rates that you're managing right now, could you tell us a bit more about your 90-day goal?
Actually, we work now with trimesters.
Yeah.
And actually, tomorrow morning we will announce the theme.
Ah.
And the theme will be Dragons Den.
Oh, it is.
We want to have more entrepreneurship in a company. So we will have the 4 chairs there. The management team is then the den.
Oh my gosh.
I'm the coach, so the moderator.
Yes.
And the whole team can watch. And every week we select 3 to 4 people. We have 3 departments: IT, the consumer department, and the business department. And out of those 3, we add maybe 1 more. They have to present in 1 week time their great business idea.
Oh my gosh, how much fun.
But they have to make either prototypes, mood boards, sketches. If it's good enough and it can be built in 2 weeks, we will build it instantly, and they get a reward. So that's what we will do.
What a fun!
Is it
tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock? So it's just timing.
Are you broadcasting?
Oh,
you should broadcast.
That is a great
We're broadcasting it now, so I told them. Seriously.
We've got it.
Tomorrow morning,
we've got the scoop. Okay. This is on Twitter.
Yeah.
No, we'll keep that silent.
Right.
If you look at the rhythm, Rockefeller was the great example of rhythm.
He was.
I'm very curious, but you've got your MBA. You're inspired by Rockefeller. How did you basically get the puzzle together and write the book?
Yeah.
Although we know that you didn't write it.
Exactly. You got it. I had a ghostwriter. No, I read his biography, Titan. I was a good friend of mine.
Titan. Okay.
Whose wife said, Verne, you're into business. You need to read this biography. And I never read it. It's about this thing. And I'm digging into it. And I'm seeing this guy, gathering data, using his telegraph systems from the oil fields of Russia in daily. And he had his own daily routine of stepping back from the company and had a coach who helped him set priorities each day. And then he did the daily luncheon with his 9 directors. And it's like, this was awful progressive for a guy 100 years ago who started the company was 20. I mean, this was a young entrepreneur.
And there was no oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this was the wild times. This was like the launch of the internet, where .coms popped up and died. Refineries were launching and dying.
The Price is a book about the whole oil.
Exactly. 1,000 refineries popped there in Pennsylvania overnight. And out of all that dust and mess came this young guy who kind of got his arms around it and organized and made it happen. I mean, Facebook happened this century. It didn't happen, in the 90s. And I think John D. was the Mark Zuckerberg of that era.
And then you decided to put the puzzle together.
I did, and I'd already been teaching a lot of these ideas at this MIT program that I'd launched 21 years ago. And so it made sense as a framework and a brand I mainly did it for a branding exercise. And I actually was hoping the Rockefellers were going to call me up and say, hey, you can't do that, and I could create some publicity out of it. But they were fine with it. And I've gotten to know Mark Rockefeller since, who is the direct descendant of John D.
Yeah.
And
he's now in your board somewhere.
No, he's not. But I know him. I've met with him there in the Rockefeller Center in New York City. And I think they're appreciative of the fact that, you know, we're talking positively about a guy that has been vilified in other ways. But at the end of the day, he made a lot and he gave it away. Which is powerful at the
biggest companies in the world.
He did, and he gave away a lot, which really set the stage for what we're seeing Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and others now commit to do.
If you're looking at the future,
Yes.
Your 5 to 10 year goal, you're a BHAG. What's your BHAG?
Well, we just said it. It's interesting. We finished our 15th year last year in 2012, and as you saw me talk about today, companies really don't take off till they hit their 25th anniversary. So we knew we had 10 more years, so we have set out a set of specific goals for each of the companies by 2022. In terms of number of coaching partners we want to have, the number of major companies that we are supporting, and so all that's been laid out. We're very excited about it.
So that's your goal.
But we're also patient about it. Our real BHAG is to be working deeply with 20,000 companies. We're working now with 20,000, which was an early BHAG we have, but we want to go deep with 20,000.
Real connecting.
Yeah, and we're only connecting really deep with 2,000. So we're about 1/10 of the way there.
Ben, this is a trick question for you. What's your BHAG?
It's 1 billion of retail revenue over our platform.
1 billion of retail.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Currently, it's about 300 million.
Yeah.
So it's
1/3 of the way there.
Yeah.
When?
We have not set a time. It's one of the 3 to 5 year goals we have. So it's
Yeah, by the way, you don't have to set a time. It's not necessary.
That was really a really interesting insight, I think, by today. That time,
yes,
on the one side, is everything. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you feel that you're in a certain hurry, that everything has to be done today, tomorrow, next week, next month. And what you do by structuring it in time frames or long-term goals is basically that you seem to relax a bit more. Your timing, you have more time than you think.
You do, yeah. It's that, Steve Jobs quote that I shared, I'm always amazed how overnight successes take a hell of a long time. Apple didn't take off till it was 25 years old. People forget that. They feel like it was always a young company, always doing, it was almost dead its first 20 years.
What does it mean if you look, if the 25-year thing is something that you have to look at? I mean, Google and Facebook take off. They're still waiting to take off? Is that basically what you're saying?
No.
Or is that an exception to the rule?
Well, that's why. By the way, they're generally exceptions to the rule. There's not that many Googles or Facebooks that come along. And there I shared that the fundamental secret is they built business models that tapped into the most brains. I mean, Facebook's got 1 billion people basically working for them. Google, what they built was an algorithm that says, you want an answer to a question. That they tap into basically everyone who's ever been on the internet, and they deliver you in nanoseconds a particular answer. So it's the companies that built business models based on tapping into the most brains are able to do in 8 years what's taken other companies 80 years. And that's the quick lesson.
Is that something that you're looking at? What would Google do is one of the books that describe how Google would do it. Where do you get your inspiration from?
Going to these kind of events once, and also to Google. I've been there now 3 times, and it's amazing how they think. They think so big. They think 10x everywhere. They have we had a special master. He's mastering in 10x's. And
what kind of things?
10x is how to make things 10 times bigger, or faster, or they have all kind of challenges. If you see how strong YouTube is growing, they have to build so many servers. It's 3 times the current internet. And it's amazing. If you want to scale that up, you have to think out of the box, all those kind of things. And it's great how they think. And they have all kind of challenges, but it needs to be solved by people. So the one thing they do is, what kind of business are we? It's a trick question, of course. In the end, it's the hiring business. So they told us how they hire, how many applicants they have, the tooling they have to filter them out, and then have talks with the best of the best, and of those the best. And then you have an atmosphere on that campus which is amazing, and that anything can happen there. Combine that with unlimited budget, and you have something that rocks. Always when I leave there, I feel so humble and energized at the same time. It's an awkward feeling.
And I love the fact that one of the co-founders is back as CEO. Yeah. Back to that point that Ben Horowitz and Mark Andreessen have been making, is that You know, the VC market was wrong to kick founders out.
Yeah.
And Herman Simon's research found that the hidden champions, the founder stayed there on average 20 years, which is what it took for most companies to really hit their circle.
In different roles.
In different roles. Yeah. And I think it's to their credit they brought Eric Schmidt in, really mentored them and coached them, and then.
Yeah, Larry Page is not your standard CEO material if you go and search for it, right?
He's not, but I think it's great that he's back.
Yes.
Another thing that you said when we walked out the door and said, how do you keep your energy level this high, is that this is giving me the energy, talking to people. How is that for you? I mean, you go to companies, you read books. Is there any network you join to meet people that have the same challenges?
It's two things. You need things that give you energy, but you also always have things that cost you a lot of energy. So identify what costs you energy, quit while you can. Probably you're not good at it anyhow, and you're also costing energy to the other person. Focus on the things that give you energy, and then you can also give energy back to other people. It's more like a loop. Apart from being a healthy mind in a healthy body, I think that is important. But I like to be inspired. I like to talk to people. I like to share knowledge with people I respect.
The multiplier.
Yeah. On the other hand, people I don't respect or whatever, they drain my knowledge. And
one last question, family life. You had this brilliant quote among the this afternoon. Happy life, happy wife.
That's right. Happy wife, happy life.
Sorry, happy wife, happy life. Yeah. Family life. How is that for you, Ben? We know that
I've also 4 kids, so we're a minority.
Me too. Yeah, I've got 4 kids
as well.
Yeah. But I don't think anybody can be successful if the home life is not great.
I know.
And you need, the wife really deserves a lot of credit, because often, like now also, I'm not home. She has to be able to handle that. But at the same time, you have to reserve time, but it has to be quality time. And the kids, you need quality and quantity time, so that's another thing. And I think I can manage that. I have a healthy balance. I think that's what you should have.
Is that the reason why on the first page on your Growth Tools book is the me legacy?
That's right. Yeah, because you've got to get that part of your life right, or it's just going to irritate you all along the way. And at some point, you start to resent business, you start to resent the family, because it's irritating you. So it's time to get that taken care of right away.
Yeah, so that's one of the newer insights.
It is, yeah.
Because it wasn't in the original book.
No, you've got to get your kind of one-page personal plan together in order for it to feed into the companies, and vice versa.
You know what's great about this? It's alive. Like only now I found out you have an updated Rockefeller habit checklist. 2 weeks ago it was not live because I printed out your old list. That's nice. So it's always continuously improving. So it gives you new material all the time, and that's nice.
Yeah, we're trying to do more.
Verne, one last question.
Yes.
The tip for all the viewers that are, the challengers that are that are up to the first hurdle of 10 employees and going beyond.
Yes.
What's your tip?
You've got to grow the next layer of leaders. Your job as a leader is to grow the next leaders. And if you're not up for that, hire a number 2 who can do that so you can go be entrepreneur.
Ben, your last tip?
Well, in my current situation, I can't agree more. So hire the best people also, but give them the trust and authority. And have some really ambitious people that also want your job, so you have the right people on board.
Yeah, that's good.
Great having you here on the bus on the MKBuzz in Amsterdam. We'll be playing this video live afterwards. Our book Growth, Groei, a Dutch book which is basically ended up for the people that are getting there and wanting to start growing their business, is out on October 31st. So
it is.
Yeah, we'll have you maybe on the back of the book for a quote. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for being here, Ben, and hope to see you soon.
You bet. Okay, good to be on the bus.